All right, let's rock.
Oh, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back once again. It's Thursday. Not really, but it's Thursday when you guys are watching this, and it's probably like 4 weeks from when we actually are doing this recording, but it's episode 215 of the world famous Keepin It Rio Podcast. And I'm telling you guys this, today I swapped out my roofer hat for an original OG logo because I've got one of my favorite people in the industry, been around for quite some time, and I got this hat as a personal gift several years ago. And we're going to have ourselves a lot of fun because this episode's a couple years in the making, and I'm super fired up. Don't know if you guys can tell or not, but let's welcome our guest to the show. Ladies and gentlemen, with no hesitation whatsoever, the president, CEO, inventor, you name it, the main man over at Miller Storm Roofing and Reconstruction in Fort Worth, Texas, your friend of mine, Mr. Jay Miller. Jay, what's up, buddy? How you doing?
What's going on, Chuck? Thank you for having me on the show, man. I've been watching you for a while. I know you're an icon in the roofing industry, man. I've learned a lot from you. It's crazy how things have kind of come full circle. You know, you were at the original office that we were at down there with Kevin Burrell. You came in and coached the sales team back when I was new to being a business owner. And I remember you coming in and coaching, and that was the first time I ever brought somebody in for coaching to the company. And what a small world, and you're an icon, man, in this, and I really respect what you do. So thank you for having me on.
Dude, I appreciate that. I don't know if the camera caught that single teardrop that just came down my face or not, but icon is a great thing. It just kind of means you've been around forever and you're old, but I can appreciate that because it was probably, heck, I guess that's been over 4 years ago, maybe, or somewhere in that window that I came down there and got to meet with your team. And I'm super pumped to hear about how everything has grown since then. Because, dude, you're all over the place. You got one of these cool logo things in the background. That's how you know you've made it big in the world, because you've got your logo, and that is pretty sick. I'm not going to lie. I'm representing today. I took the roofer hat off because, you know, you're worthy of that kind of respect. So let's kick this bad boy off, man. I got my foot ready. I'm about to kick the door wide open. So I always like to do it in segments with Keepin It Rio. And I just told you there is nothing pre-planned here. I have no questions. We're just going to come, you know, find out about what we're going to talk about together in the moment. Yeah. And that's what makes this so awesome, ladies and gentlemen. I don't have anything prepared. It's organic as can be. And I like it that way. So, Jay, let's start off. We'll go back in time, you know. How in the world did you get yourself into the roofing industry of all things? I always love to hear these stories because everybody's got a different one, and most of them are by accident.
Yeah. So it was a God thing for sure. So I guess it starts off like many other people in the roofing industry. I was incarcerated for a while. When I got out, I was looking to change my life, really just stay on the right side of right. I was filling out some job applications. You know, I'm getting denied for my background. And I was feeling a little hopeless. I had to go to Narcotics Anonymous meetings as part of like my release and the outpatient program that I was part of. And I remember at this outpatient rehab that I was at, the lady was like, hey, if you don't have a sponsor by the time, it was like 3 days from then that I had to have a sponsor. And in my mind, I didn't know what a sponsor was. So I thought a sponsor was somebody like gave you money and like helped you like rebuild your life. So I went to this meeting and I'm sitting there and I look to the right and this guy's got a Rolex on and he had Yeezys on and he had like all this cool gear. And I looked to the right and then like the hat was going around the meeting room to put money in it. Well, I was broke, but when the hat came to him, I watched and he pulled out what looked like $15,000 in cash. He takes a $100 bill out, puts it in the hat, passes it to me. I immediately pass it to the next person. I had nothing to contribute there. But I'm like, I need to get this guy to be my sponsor. So the meeting was over. Immediately I tap him. I'm like, hey, will you sponsor me? He goes, yeah, I'll sponsor you. And so we get to talking and he's like, yeah, I have a roofing company. And I'm like, okay. I was like, well, I'm actively looking for a job. My mom was letting me stay on her couch at the time. And so I was like, all right, well, yeah, what do I got to do? I was like, I probably don't, if you do a background check, I probably don't qualify for any of this. And he goes, no, you're good on the background. I was like, yeah, but the tattoos and stuff, like I'm already disqualifying myself. He's like, no, you're good. You're good. And I'm like, okay, well, he's like, just come in Monday. And I was like, all right, cool. It was like a Wednesday night or something like that. Well, my mom, she was like, hey, like, I can't have you stay here anymore because as part of like the court, I wasn't supposed to be, I lost rights to be around my son. And so my mom was like, here's some options. So she gives me the Union Gospel Mission, which is a homeless shelter in Fort Worth. And she's like, I can't do this. You need to leave by tomorrow. And I was like, dang, like, so I call the guy who owns the roofing company. I'm like, hey, like, things just got really unstable for me. I appreciate you giving me this opportunity, but like, I literally have to go find a homeless shelter right now or someplace to live. I don't think I'll be able to, really work at your company, but I appreciate it. Thank you or whatever. He goes, well, why don't you come? I'll get you a motel, man, down here in Burleson, Texas for like 7 days and let you try to figure some stuff out. And, you go from there. And I'm like, seriously? He's like, yeah, you'll put you in there for 7 nights or whatever. I'm like, okay. Like it was the next place I could stay. So I go to this motel. I had a friend drop me off there. And I'm like, all right, now I'm at this motel, but I don't have a car. I don't have anything. What do I do, And so he gives me I get a ride to the Monday meeting, and I walk into this meeting and I see guys like with, brand new trucks and polos and watches and all this stuff. And they're young guys, and they're talking about real estate investments and investing in crypto and all this stuff. And I'm like, how much money are you guys making here? Like what's going on? We're making, $20,000 a month and blah, blah, blah. And that was my intro into roofing. And so literally I was kind of like in this motel. One of the office managers there saw me like walking from the highway it was a $10 gym that I used to go to that was across the street. So I used to walk from the motel to the gym, shower at the gym, and then I would walk to the office. So I would get to the office at like 9 a.m, like right when it opened up, and she would just see me sitting there. Like, I had nothing else to do except like just be present, and that office manager, she like after my motel thing was up, I was couch hopping at a couple of the sales reps' houses. It was kind of funny. I had like 2 boxes of clothes. I was just like, oh, I could stay at your house tonight. They were like, yeah, you could come stay, because I literally had nowhere to go after this motel situation. Well, she offered for me to stay with her and her husband in this spare bedroom, which was actually a house. It was a new construction house. So it was a huge level up, and they already had a bed in there. And so that was, I could go on about how I got into roofing, but like that was really the start of it. And then me and her husband ended up working together. He had a truck. I was like the mouthpiece, and he was like the paperwork guy. So he would drive me around. I would go knock all these doors, get these deals going, but I didn't know how to like read insurance paperwork or how to structure deals or anything like that. So he did that part, and we hustled together that first year. And that first year, did $1 million in sales at that first company. It was mainly stone coated steel. Funny story about that is that, I didn't know that composition roofing made money. So at the first company I was at, they would go, oh, composition doesn't make money. We only do metal roofs here. So there was this old guy there when I would get these referrals for these roofs. They'd be like, oh, can you do this? I'm like, oh, I don't do comp. I would give it to this old guy, and he would give me $200.
Nice.
So like I must have given this guy maybe 12 to 15 comp roofs, and they weren't small roofs. They were like 60 squares and like these nicer neighborhoods, But yeah, so I could go on and on. I know I mean, we got an hour. I could keep going on this, but yeah. So anyway, I didn't find out till a year and a half later when I left that company, when I did my first composition roof, and someone handed me a $3,600 final check, and I was like, this can't be right. I was like, I don't think you did the commission right. And he's like, no, you're good. It's $3,600. And I'm like, and then I just had this flashback of
why that dude was always smiling when he saw you. He's always bringing you coffee every morning saying, hey, bro, anything you need, you're the man.
Yeah, I was like, oh, my God, this guy was eating off of me. He was giving me these $200 personal checks, and I thought he was just like a peasant in the company. I'm like, oh, here to support this old man. And then I'm like, oh, snap, this guy must have made, 70, 80 grand off of me just giving him these composition roofs. And so that was the start of how I got into roofing, man. And, there's a lot to that too. I met Taylor at the first company I was at. Her mother was the co-owner of that company. And so that's a whole story to it too. But I could keep going on and on. There's a lot of routes we could go, but I know I could keep talking. So yeah, that's how I got into roofing.
That's awesome. And see, like I say, everybody's got a story, and every story has a substantial impact on their life. And, I didn't even know that about you. At one point, hopping from couch to couch, wondering where you're going to stay next, someone reaches to you and says, hey, bro, here's an opportunity. And if you think back in the course of life, if you hadn't made that call saying, I don't think I'm going to be able to do it, I don't think it's going to work out, we definitely wouldn't be sitting here right now, and who knows where your life would have been. So you're right when you say it's a God thing. It was sent to you in that moment when you needed it the most. And dude, you took the ball and ran with it. And I absolutely love these stories. This is what the roofing industry is all about, folks. It's life-changing stuff. My story is nothing like that. I tell people I was pissed off one day on a Friday. I used to run a drywall boom, and I must have had a bad day or something. And I saw a roofing supply company was hiring a CDL driver. I pulled in on a Friday. I got hired that day. And here I am 27 years later. But that morning I had no idea that I'd be getting into roofing either. And it's just one of those things. It's like the roofing world finds people and says, hey, come with me and I will show you what this is all about. And then you get people that look at us like we're, whatever. And if they had any idea what was really going on, they would realize they're like, the comp shingle guy. Hey, man, just keep paying. It sucks. Just trust me. This sucks. Just I'll take care of it for you. And you're changing lives without even realizing it at a very early stage in your career. So that's pretty awesome. I like what you said about, the early trepidation and thinking to yourself, okay, my background, my tattoos, you try to talk yourself out of it, but it wouldn't let you. So let's talk about that initial phase of your career. You get into a company, you've still probably got a lot of that hesitation in your mind thinking, man, I'm going to go to someone's house. They're going to throw me out of here. They're going to look at me like I'm different. Tell me about how your sales career started. Did you have any kind of hesitation, or was it like hit the ground running? I'm going to do $1 million my first year. No big deal. When you don't realize at that point, that's a pretty damn huge deal. What was it like for you in those early days as a salesman?
Oh man. So I've always sold things my entire life. So like I was always in the career of selling something. My whole family was like, he's always selling something. Like, I was always up to selling something to somebody, trying to do a service, trying to sell them a product. I used to sell everything. Like if you name it, I sold it, from cell phones to fire extinguishers to alarms. Like, I sold it all, but I was never committed or stayed with it long enough to be truly successful. But I was always good with people. I'm from New Jersey, New York. We talk to people all the time. Like you're from the North too, right? We talk, like we have the gift of gab. I think maybe I was blessed with that. Maybe that was just the environment I grew up in. I don't know. But I wasn't successful with roofing actually when I started, because technically when I started at this first company, they gave me business cards. I had a word track pitch. They put me with a gentleman who was selling, but he was like so active in his career selling jobs that he was just driving around on the phone, like doing contracts and working. He didn't have time to really like walk up to the door with me, and and really that's kind of, It's still hard to do when you're training people to this day, but I would get out of his car and I would do the pitch like very robotic, and people were like, get the fuck off my stoop, or I'm calling the cops or whatever. I tell this story all the time. It's like 6 weeks into me doing this, that same supervisor pulled up into a mini mall, and I was like, what are we doing? He goes, I'm calling you an Uber. And I was like, for what? And he goes, you're not cut out for this. He's like, you haven't gotten any inspections in the last 6 weeks, so I'm going to have an Uber come. Well, mind you, I'm living in the spare bedroom of the office manager's house. I lost everything. Like, I lost custody of my son. I lost my apartment. I lost my car. I lost everything being locked up. I start crying because no one ever gave me an opportunity to even have a career. Like, I saw the checks. I knew it was possible. I just wasn't catching on fast enough, and I just start bawling in his truck, and I'm like, dude, please, like, you don't understand. You call me an Uber. There's nothing that it's going to happen other than that Uber is going to take me to Amber's house, and I'm going to be at square one. Like, this is the only shot that I have. Like, don't do this, And he's like, all right, man, like, but we really need to step it up, blah, blah, blah. Well, that next week, I got my first stone-coated steel deal, locked up a claim, and really that was kind of off to the races. Once I saw the process from start to finish, like an adjuster appointment and doing a contract and doing like that whole process, I was a little bit more confident in talking about it. But yeah, so I didn't start off really fast, but once I got the hang of it and I was like, okay. And I saw a few people do it, clicked, like a light bulb went off probably like, right around week 8, maybe week 10, where I was like, I understand this. I know how this goes. Okay, cool. I know this word track or this rebuttal. Because eventually I had to kind of ditch the pitch in a way, because you can't stay on the pitch for too long. Like, you have to understand where that pitch is taking this homeowner, but eventually you have to be your authentic self, which is why this is not scripted, right? People want authenticity. They don't want a scripted thing, right? They don't want to just be reading questions or reading off a teleprompter or whatever like that. They want genuine stuff. And so you have to I say it's like finding your own style of Kung Fu. Like, you got to take a little bit here, learn with this guy, learn this, and then you develop your own style. And when that style comes together, that's truly like how you're going to be successful in roofing.
Yeah, man, I'll tell you what, that's awesome. And our stories are very similar from that perspective. I had actually been in the industry 15 years when I got into residential roofing sales. Dang. I was in distribution. I used to drive a truck, and I did roof loads with a conveyor belt, and I loaded houses for 12 years. I got a chance to go to North Carolina and open up a roofing supply company from scratch, and I was down there doing that. I got to meet all these different company owners along the way, and I think that was a huge part of my career. But my biggest thing was I knew all the technical stuff about shingles, right? And I'm like, dude, I could sell roofs to anybody because I know all of this shit. And I'm going to tell the homeowners all about it. And I get into the house and it's like, we're going to cut the shingle like 3 3/8 over. We're going to put nails at like 1 6 and 6 1 and all this. And nobody cares. Right. And I started getting myself kind of to the point where the owner of the company I was with said the same thing. Like, dude, you're just not getting it. You're not cut out for this. He told me this. Yeah. And I'm like, what? Like, dude, I know about this industry like you wouldn't believe. I know more stuff than you, but I just didn't quite get that concept that nobody cares, right? I'd be in there for an hour talking about stupid stuff, and really all you got to do is say, look, your roof won't leak anymore. It'll look awesome. Your neighbors will hate you, whatever it takes to get them to feel good about you. Yeah. And once I hit that first sale and realized, oh, dude, that's all I had to do, it changed. And I started getting a lot more success, did my first $1 million, and then started kind of snowballing from there. But that first one was always the hardest one to get, obviously, because we don't know what we don't know until we figure it out. So tell me a little bit about that first deal. You sit down, still scared. Now you've had like, oh my God, everything could fall apart again at any second. This dude was about to ditch me in a parking lot. Yeah. I got to make it happen. So tell me about the first sit down that you've got where you actually got ink on paper and you realize Jay Miller is on the road to becoming a legend.
So the homeowner was like, "Are you okay?" I blamed it on energy drinks. My hand on the iPad as I was feeling.
Dude, me too.
Okay, I couldn't even hold the iPad straight. I was like, and I'm actually not very tech savvy, and so I'm sitting there trying to fill it out, and my hand was shaking so bad. I filled the contract out, went to go try to save it, and deleted the whole contract.
Nice.
So I ended up having to refill everything out, the whole thing. I mean, usually now I could come in, do a work order, 45 minutes, go through it real thorough. This one was 2.5 hours. God bless this guy's soul for giving me the grace, because I think he knew I was new. I wasn't new to service and what people expect. I was just new to because trying to explain the process, fill out paperwork, and then it being your first time, it was like the trifecta of just problems, but yeah, so nervous as hell, but it actually ended up going real south in the end, because it was a stone coated steel roof, and we do the roof and the skylights end up leaking in a
course
storm. So I get a call at 11:15 at night. It's ringing back to back. Initially I'm like, I'm not answering that. Call goes off again. I'm like, who could this be? I look at it. It's the homeowner. He's like, my roof's leaking, blah, blah, blah. So I jump up at 11:15. I'm like, I don't know what to do. I'm talking to Taylor. I'm like, I don't know, what should I do? She's like, just go there. And I'm like, okay. So I show up. I get there. He has all these towels on the ground. All I could do is just keep apologizing. He's like, why is this happening? Why is this happening?
Dude, I don't know. I don't want it to happen either.
Fixed. I know, we're fix it. Pretty much helped him wipe up all the water, put buckets underneath. It's storming. So it's there's nothing other than just putting stuff under there that's going to just stop water from, I helped him move his couches and all the stuff out of the way so it would catch all this water. And I just stayed there, and he had, 2 young kids. So they're up watching this too. And I just keep apologizing, telling them we're going to make it right, which we did make it right. We ended up fixing the skylights and stuff like that, but it was definitely not the most smooth experience, which it never is for the first deal. But yeah, that's how that one was. But it just gave me kind of cut my teeth on what could happen during a roof deal,
Yeah. And to me, I think that's awesome, because you said you blamed yours on energy drink. I blamed mine on medication. It was the same deal. I stopped breathing for a few minutes and talk, and I'm like, and I was scared to death while I'm trying to fill this paper out. And we get over that process. We take care of it. I had another one just like what you said, where it started raining. I start getting calls, and then it rings again and again and again. And I answer the phone, and the lady's screaming, help, my house is collapsing. Everything is ruined inside. And I'm thinking, okay, whatever. I'll be there in the morning. No, you got to get here. Dude, I show up, and literally the whole house completely just was destroyed. And that was one of those, thank God I'm not the owner moments, which I don't know what the hell caused me later on in life to get into that position. But that kind of segues us into this next section. So you learn your stuff, you get out there, you see what can happen, good, bad, ugly, everything in between. You get your experience. And then at some point you're just like, why don't I go jump on this and do this myself? So let's talk a little bit about the advent of Miller Storm. At what point in your career do you realize, hey, maybe I'm made for more. Maybe there's more to this than what I'm doing right now. Maybe there's just a whole other section of this industry that I can take over. What point in your time as a sales rep does this start to creep into your mind?
It never creeped into my mind, Chuck, to be honest with you. So what happened was I was working at a few different companies, right? And nobody really, I had the entrepreneur spirit of growing and innovation, and we should do this and we should do that, but it always fell on deaf ears. No one really wanted to take action and do anything to try to just implement these different things that I said. And my wife was always like, that's a great idea. I don't know why they didn't listen to you, you know? And I'm like, yeah, well, you know, I was that guy, right? I was like, we could improve this. And if you did this, this would, and you know, being new to a company or just even being new to roofing, your ideas fall on deaf ears, you know? They're like, what do you know? I've been in this, you know, whatever. So in the beginning of 2020, it might've been the late 2019, I was working for a company. And the guy, he owed me a decent amount of money, and I had no business starting my own business. But he called me one time, and he goes, "Hey, like X, Y, or Z, like I know you're trying to start your own business, blah blah blah." And I'm like, "No, like what?" I was like, "I'm not trying to start." He's like, "I already know. Listen, just keep it a buck with me, or I'm going to take all your money, or something along those lines." And he was on speaker, and like I had two kids at the time, you know, and I remember hanging up the phone and going, did this guy just threaten to take all my money? Like, in what world can someone just take your money? You know, like this is like how I feed my kids. Like there's no other income coming. Like if he pulls the rug up from underneath me, I'm screwed, you know? And my wife was like, you know, one thing about my wife is if you piss my wife off, she will move mountains, you know? And she was like, fuck that. She's like, we'll start our own company. Oh yeah, if you thought we were starting a company, we're fucking starting a company now. And I was like, you know, I come from a family, nobody really owns a business. You know, I'm like, we don't know how to start a business, babe. I'm like, we're not starting. She's like, no, we're fucking starting a business. You're going to sell. You're good at sales. You're a killer. You've been, you know, you got this. And I'm like a deer in headlights now. I'm like, I have no idea how to get a crew. I don't know how to order. I was just trying to tell her, I'm like, I still kind of disqualifying myself, right? Like, I think God put people in my world that just kept pushing me, which was definitely Taylor. This was all Taylor's idea. Taylor picked out the logo. She created the name. She had all the paperwork. I was still kind of like scared. I was like, why don't we just work it out with the other company? Like, I feel like maybe she's like, no, like, da, da, da. And I'm like, it's just me. Like, I'm like, you know, she's like, you got this, blah, blah. I was like, oh my God. And so me and her, we just started knocking doors, and it was when that money got taken, when it truly was like, hey, you're not getting paid your money, and I knew it wasn't coming, that set me off. I used that, oh, word. I was like, you're gonna take, I was like, okay, now I have to go ham, because I had money in the bank, but I had no other money coming. And that like lit a fire under me. And I was so mad that, because this guy was like a mentor to me in a way, because he taught me composition roofing. Like, and he's always kind of been I guess like a friend of me, or like he's been a friend, a mentor, but I just didn't like how he handled the business part of that. And it pissed me off. And I was like, all right, I'm about to go ham. And so the first month of Miller Storm, it was so crazy. Another God thing. So Taylor had an install so we were working at two separate companies at the time. She had her last install in Fort Worth. It was the beginning of 2020. It was like March. It was scheduled for a Tuesday or something. Anyway, it fucking hails at where the build's going on the next day. So like literally he's in the center of the storm. So right after that hailstorm happens, I already have a build going up. So it almost looks, it's like you could already see the proof in the pudding in this neighborhood, right? That month, I signed more claims than I ever had in my life. It was me, and I remember Linear Roofing being out there dropping people off on a school bus. And it was like Linear, Miller, Linear, Miller. I would lock up a street, Linear would lock up the next street. It was like Miller, Linear, like Miller. Like, I didn't even know who Linear Roofing was till that day. And I was like, man, these guys are everywhere. I didn't realize how many reps they had. You know, they were going up blocks, and it was just me, you know. So, but I had like 40, I must have filed 40 or 50 claims in that first month. And that sent us in the trajectory to like, oh snap, like we're going to be good. But then we needed to procure this too, right? Because like me and Taylor started this with like $7,000. So I'm like, in the beginning, I'm like, I didn't know anything about cash flow. I didn't know like much about how to like really manage money from a business aspect. I knew kind of what the labor was going to be. And so, but some people's jobs, they don't always have that front end check, like, or they don't want to give you a front end check at all, and then I was new too. So I had no Google reviews, no website. I hadn't been in business, and I'm competing with Linear, who's like, do you have the RCAT license? Are you part of NTRCA? Are you Hague certified?
Shut up.
And I'm like, I'm still running the business out of my house. So that's really how Miller Storm got started and the trajectory of where it all started. And it's funny because right around that time was the COVID lockdowns. So I remember us getting the keys to our office, like right at the COVID lockdown. It was a contactless key drop. Like when he was like, the key is under the mat, and I signed everything digitally. It was super weird. And knocking doors in the middle of this like pandemic, which was not really everything that everyone said it was, because I was out there knocking doors. Like, people were like, oh, pandemic, how could you knock doors? But that was like one in every maybe 40 people. People were actually excited to see me, which was crazy. Like, you're knocking doors, really? How are you keeping your business alive? I'm like, when I knocked on someone's door in COVID, it was like, dude, I've been trying to get my roof done. They were like excited to see another person. Like, they've been home, they're ready to rock and roll. So I look back, I didn't see it then. I don't think anybody does. Hindsight being 2020, I'm like, this has kind of been my destiny in a way, because like things couldn't have lined out perfectly, like the timing, the luck, the opportunity, and how everything is just kind of lined out. I feel like I'm just in line with my destiny, of how things just lined up.
Yep, man, that's badass right there. I'm not going to lie. That story just gave me goosebumps, and that's what this is all about. It's about having that opportunity and having someone. You mentioned Taylor quite a bit, and I want to talk about her for a second too. She literally just hearted one of the posts I put up about having legendary Jay Miller on my podcast tonight. So she's been through everything with you, been supportive since before you even got into this deal, and is the driving force literally behind the entire thing even being a thing.
Yeah.
So you've got this person that you can rely on, that's always there for you, that's always supporting you, that's always saying, hey, bro, you can do it. You're the man. Screw those other guys. We're going to make them look stupid. Tell me a little bit about the dynamic that you guys get into, because like you say, neither one have really experienced opening a roofing company and starting this and all the things that go along with it. $7,000 to start. I was talking with someone the other day, and it's like, these guys get these new hailstorms and they start their companies, and what they don't realize is you can really only produce a couple jobs before you're tapped out again. Yeah. So you go out and sign 40 or 50 deals. You've got to figure out a way to continue to build and continue to grow and make these things happen. Yeah. Tell me how this works out for you when you go out and hit that first storm. Literally immediately, you're fighting against a heavyweight in the industry in Linear, which there's a storm here in San Antonio, dude. And I was in a neighborhood this morning. There's probably 100 Linear signs in the neighborhood over here. So they're a huge powerhouse. You're out there, doing your thing, showing your true grit and determination. But there does come a time where it's like, oh, fuck, how are we going to do this? Like, we don't have a crew. We know how to find one. But how does this continue to roll when you get moving, you get those deals on the board, you start producing? What happens when you get to the end of the road, though? And it's like, dude, how do we keep going?
Dude, honestly, it was scary. There were many times where we were like, how are we going to put this together? And then we would get like a depreciation check, and then that would help us get to the next job. And then with that depreciation check and this front end check would equal what we could do this job, and we were just squeezing checks together to try to like float the next job, plus, big shout out to Hunter, who's my ABC sales rep. He has been really a mentor to me since I've been a sales rep. So at the first company I was at, he was the sales rep there, and he was able to give me a little bit of a credit line on the material, which helped a little bit. It wasn't a big one, but it was enough where it was helping us kind of move things from Peter to pay Paul and Peter to pay Paul. And the cash flow, man, I mean, especially when you're grinding like that, and I didn't understand business. Like there was a time where there was like 85,000 in the account. And I was like, ooh, like,
rich.
Cool. Yeah. I was like, oh, we're cool. I was like, let's go take that trip. You know, like, you know, we reward ourselves, you know, and dude, we almost crashed the company one time by like you think that money is yours and it's not. Like it looked like, oh man, 85 grand. And then your bills are like 83, you know, after you pay people, then you need to hire somebody. And then that check that you think is coming doesn't come, or it ends up with a mortgage on it, and then you have to send it off and it messes up your cash flow. So there have been a lot of learning curves there. But luckily we made it through. It wasn't easy. There were many times where we had to put, you know, ground turkey in a crock pot, and we were like, man, we messed this up. We shouldn't even be eating anything out, you know, making a pot roast or something where we're making meals throughout the week so we can make payroll or, you know, make it to the next week. Even though you think that you're doing good, it takes a while for you to build up that cash flow where you have just even a little fluff in there to pay yourself, you know, because, you know, and the insurance and buying a bill, you're always kind of trying to put money back in to reinvest. And then you try to pay yourself too and grow a company and sell deals and do like it's not easy in the beginning. And I think a lot of guys, when they go to start their own thing, they're like, oh, I was paying this guy 50%. Like now I'm gonna make 100%. And they don't realize that they're gonna wear all the hats now. You know, I didn't truly appreciate any other roofing company owner until I started my own. And I was like, oh, you know, it's like when I moved out of my mom's house and I found out toilet paper costs money. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like, wait, hold on. This stuff's not free. This stuff's not free. You know, you're like toothpaste. You start adding it up, you know, and it wasn't until I did my own thing where I realized, oh, snap, I don't have somebody to do that. I have to do that. Oh, no one does this. Who's going to do that? You know, and I look back at the other companies. I was like, wow, they were doing so much for me that I just wasn't grateful. I didn't know any better to be grateful for it because there's so much behind the scenes that goes on.
Yep, man, I couldn't have said that any better. And I totally understand that feeling. And you know, you like you say, you get a little bit of money in the bank and it's like, hell yeah, I've made it. Here we are. And then you realize, oh, damn, I got to pay for all that stuff. And I got to pay these guys that are out here doing it for me. And as you start getting a little bit deeper into it, you realize, okay, I can't do all this by myself. I'm not going to be able to maintain this. I'll probably have a stroke and keel over in someone's driveway because of the stress. I got to go out here and hit certain numbers to be able to pay for what we're doing. Now it's time to start thinking about how you build a team and get some other people in the organization that can help you create revenue, that can help you with some of that stuff. So let's talk a tad bit about getting a team together with a young company. You're just getting started. You hit a nice storm like right out of the gate. But like you say, that's not a blessing. That could be like the biggest curse of all time if you don't handle it right. Yeah. And in the moment, you're doing everything you can to survive. But then you guys have a moment where it's like, hey, you know, I think we're going to be okay. We're still standing. We're not losing everything. And people aren't coming after us with, you know, flaming torches, chasing us down the road. Let's see what we can't do here. Yeah. And you mentioned your office. I got the pleasure to go to your office very early on and meet your team. And the thing that impressed me right off the bat, now knowing how early on in this phase you were, was what a great team you were able to put together. Yeah. So tell me a bit about how you were able to go out, find some people, sell them either on the dream or the opportunity, or however you go about getting people to come into a brand new company that still has, you know, like you said, no Google page, no reviews, no history. It's like, hey, it's us and we're about to make it happen. Join us. Tell me a little bit about how that team concept started and how you went about finding people to join.
Man, I was so on fire about what I was doing, and I always wanted to train people. Like, and I've trained some people like in other companies and stuff like that, but I got to train them my way, which got me really excited. So I think my passion in the beginning was like, hey, ride with me, like see what a day in a life is, you know? And I also remember I filed all these claims. So I also needed other people's help where they can make money by running the adjuster appointments for me. You know, I'll give them 10% of the profit to go run the adjuster. You know, I'm like, hey, can you go pick this up for me? And they, like, the first initial people, they were making a killing just helping me, you know, just helping me manage the deals that I was doing while I was still like training them on how to like knock around my installs or knock around my builds, knock these areas, where to go. They really just shadowed me. Like the first 3 guys that I hired, I was like, you guys are just going to hang out with me all day. Like, I was like, I have to go here, do this inspection. And then it was really like on the field training. Like I would inspect this roof and then I would get off and I would show them what damage is. And I would have like 3 people on the roof with me. I'm like, this is what hail damage is. Da, 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 da. I'm like, this is how I organize things for a presentation. So those first 3 guys got the straight drop for me, you know. They got that 1-to-1 training with Jay Miller, like that was on fire. And then, you know, those guys were able to start kind of doing some stuff by themselves, which was like walking people through the claims process and doing the adjusters. And then I would go to the work orders until they learned those work orders. And then eventually, you know, I had 3 or 4 guys that knew exactly what they were doing. And then, you know, when the new guys came in, they're doing the claims and learning, you know, and riding along with them. But yeah, so like that's kind of how it all started really in the beginning. You know, hindsight being 2020, you know, I was just hiring anybody. That was really those 30 people. I had a whole packed room when you came. When you and Kevin came, we had a packed room. All those people are not here anymore. And the most packed room that in comparison to when you guys were here is the room I have now. Like, we have 30 sales reps now. I had 30 3 years ago because I was just taking whoever. I was just like, oh, you want to come work for me? I took it as an honor. I was like, you know, I was like, oh, you want to be here? All right, come on, like, let's rock, you know. And I wasn't even qualifying anybody to be here, which caused a lot of chaos because, you know, people will say a lot of things at the door and they'll sign a lot of shitty deals up or set you up for just different fires and problems that you don't really want inside your company. And, you know, you guys told me right when you guys came, you pointed out a gentleman inside of that sales team. I think it was you or Kevin. And you were like, that guy's a cancer to your company. And I was like, but that's my top producer. I can't let my top producer go. And you guys were like, he's got to go. He's going to corrupt your whole company. And that's exactly what happened. Even though I didn't listen to y'all and I didn't, you know, I'm like, yeah, you guys been here 3 days. What do y'all know? But he ended up corrupting my whole company. It was a cancer, bad apple, spoils the bunch, you know, like, hey, I could do this better. You know, Jay don't know what he's doing. I'm a better sales rep, whatever it was. And he ended up corrupting a lot of people, taking a lot of people with him. And I had to rebuild my company from there, you know. And I mean, I know a lot of roofing company owners have stories like that, you know, and that's when I realized that this needed to be more than just making money. Like that's when I realized how important like culture was and core values were and our mission was and who I needed to be as a leader too, right? I couldn't pitch this just about, because initially like this was just about the money for me. Like, I'm not going to lie, but once my money was kind of decent, it was like, what's the purpose? Like, you know, cause like I watched guys make money in this, you know, you show them how to make $30,000 a month and, you know, a dude overdose. You know what I mean? Or dies or something bad happens to this person. They do some crazy shit and something bad. Because like once they make a lot of money, it can be very dangerous to
absolutely,
you know, and like I felt like I had a responsibility as an owner to make sure that I knew that they were coached on what to do with the money and how to be the person that they need to be when they get the money. You know, because people are a little immature when they get into this. And, you know, I want them to develop into men, which, you know, came down to my mission statement, which was enhancing our neighborhood by enhancing our people. Is like, I wanted to not just build a roofing company, but I wanted to show guys how to get their taxes right, how to buy a house, you know, how to, you know, get on a diet plan, work out, become not just a good roofing rep. Like, I wanted to show you how to live life because, you know, not having a father, I was like, man, like I wanted to be the mentor for other people as I unlocked doors in my life about learning about different things, how to file. I didn't know about filing taxes. I didn't know what write-offs were. I didn't know I was supposed to put money aside. I remember the first time, Taylor made me pay my taxes. She was like, hey, you owe $19,000 for taxes. And I was like, my first response was like, well, how long would I go to jail for if I didn't pay it? And she goes, what the fuck is wrong with you? I was like, maybe I could go in and do like 30 days and like come out and it's paid. I don't know. She's like, no, you're paying the tax. So all these like things that I learned while I was making money, I wanted to teach my guys how to, form their own LLC, like how to buy a house, how to structure their 1099. So when they were ready to buy a house, they could show the income. Like, don't just write everything off. And then it looks like, you make 30 grand. And then when you want to go buy a house, you can't do it because you've been making 170,000 on your taxes. It shows you made 40 and you can't even afford the house or put a down payment on the house, how to invest, how to do different things. So they could eventually evolve out of door knocking and be a more leveled up person in just overall, So yeah, and then by adding that value and bringing that culture together, like I started to realize there was just a bigger mission, and when it's bigger than just selling roofs, I think that's how you keep the retention when you truly care about each individual person and what their why is and what their game plan is, and you help them achieve that, they'll help you achieve your goals as well as a company.
Yeah, man, I'll tell you what, that's badass right there. And knowing where you started to where you're at now and the transformation of you as a person and then as a leader. And like you say, the culture is absolutely incredible. I watch your videos that you guys put out all the time and it's like, hell yeah. The other day you put one out and you're like, if I got someone here and they're making like 80 or 90 grand, I'm pissed. Like they're not giving their best. They're not being their best version of themselves. And that's my responsibility. And really taking that responsibility on and saying, look, this is not a roofing company. We're not going to just do roofs. It's more about building people. It's about being more as a human being and reaching your potential and then exceeding that far more than you'd ever even thought possible. Yeah. And, coming from humble beginnings, sleeping on couches and just hoping for tomorrow to now being in that position is a huge thing. And as you've continued to evolve and grow the company, 30 sales reps deep now, you've had to, transfer into a different location that you've grown into. Let me ask you this. You're what, 5-6 years into Miller Storm now. What's it look like 5 years from now in your mind? And we all know it's going to be like way different than what it's going to feel like right now. But what do you see the next 5 years now that you got this first little window under your belt? You've kind of got a feel for what you're doing. You've kind of established yourself. Now you're a leader in the market. What's it look like moving forward?
Yeah, I think our goal is to dominate, every major city in Texas. So we want to be
stay out of San Antonio though. Over here. We're good over here. We can collaborate over here.
When y'all got hit with a storm, everyone was looking at me like, we're going to San Antonio. I was like, nah. But yeah, so I mean, we want to be in every major city, Houston, Austin, San Antonio. Dallas is really different too. It's a different market because here we are in Fort Worth. They're just two sister cities, but with two different customer styles in a way, right? It's just two different cultures. So that's what our game plan is this year, is to put something out there in Dallas. Initially when we started the branch out in Round Rock, it was too far for me to keep. Like they needed the rub from me, they needed the rub, like it was too. We're still working on it, and now we're having the guys come up here so they can get the rub from Fort Worth to take it back to Round Rock. But I want something close enough where we can still travel to it. It still has I still travel. I mean, after I hurt my bicep and stuff, I wasn't traveling to Round Rock as much, but that's definitely going to be in the works. But it was a little too far for, when you're trying to start another branch. So
I had 3 of them. I had one in Tyler, one in College Station, and one here. And it was very difficult to keep your presence in all those locations because you're one person.
Yep. And so that's the goal. is this year, Q2, we should have the office out there in Dallas, and then start moving to Houston. Then I'll come to San Antonio last.
We'll grab lunch. Yeah, we'll have a good time. There's plenty of opportunity down here. And I always tell people, the more the merrier. If you've got people that are doing things the right way, there's a lot of hacks in San Antonio. Trust me, there's some great people, but there's some people that don't deserve to be in this industry. And the more good people that come in, we can change the perception of the industry as a whole. And we can show people that, we're here to help. We're not here to steal from old ladies and disappear with their checks and all that. So you're more than welcome in San Antonio. That was definitely a joke. But I love that. And I think having that vision and understanding, okay, we started off and then got this other location. Maybe that wasn't the right opportunity because of certain things. We weren't close enough. Understanding and then stepping back and saying, okay, let's reevaluate. Let's do this over again. And let's continue to proceed forward. It's only going to work because you're not going to let it fail. You haven't let any of it fail so far. And there's no need for anybody to think that it's going to at this point because it's just not your nature, dude. So I definitely respect that. And I do want to ask this question. I say we don't talk about roofing on here, and this isn't really about roofing, but it's kind of business related. I know, you're in a huge market for insurance. You just told us the stories about how, insurance claims for how you got yourself moving and got started. Over the last couple of years, this whole landscape has changed. Yeah. And insurance work is not what it was 10 years ago, 5 years ago, not even 2 years ago. I've got a bunch of families over here that are now finding out they got 2% deductibles. They've got RSPs on their policy where they don't get $8,000-$9,000 that's necessary to do the roof. So tell me a little bit about your vision with the evolution of that. Have you guys looked into doing more of a retail model? Is it something where you're having to constantly keep up with and say, hey, look, guys, what I taught you a year ago doesn't work anymore? Right. What's the evolution look like as far as that goes? Because I've talked to a lot of people, and I think the general consensus is if you're 100% insurance, probably not going to survive because it almost feels like the deck is stacked against us now. Yes. And that it's going to just continue to get harder and harder. So what's the evolution look like from your perspective, and how are you guys kind of staying on the front end to make sure you don't get caught up in it?
Yeah. So a couple things. So we do have some preventative measures, right? I always try to refer all my homeowners to somebody who will write a 1% RCV because I know they say, 1%, they won't write them. I know a lot of agents that do. And so I give that Rolodex to my homeowners to make sure that they're covered properly and they can get into the best policy possible. But I do see in the next, 3 to 5 years that, the industry is changing, the policies are changing, things like that. We've given it a lot of different thoughts, man. I mean, definitely something where a retail model might be our move. There is the collaboration and the merging with other companies, right? So, and also going to other markets, right? Because I've talked to a lot of people around the nation that have roofing companies, and there's still states out there that have, $1,000 deductibles, I'm seeing, I'm like, and they say if you can make it in DFW, you can make it anywhere. I've talked to people who've sold their companies for hundreds of millions of dollars, and they're like, dude, if you're running those numbers in DFW, you would run 5X that in this state, in that state, so expansion is definitely something on the map as well. I've heard a lot of horror stories since I've been in this, right? When I got into the industry, they told me, metal is dead and every metal roof has an exclusion and you don't know what you're doing, get out of metal roofing. And
that's like the comp shingle guy when he first got started.
Yeah. We still come across, we're still coming across 70 to 80% of our homeowners still have a 1% deductible. Even in this storm that we're running right now, it's going to hit different areas. But I think we'll cross that bridge when we get there. I think it's I do see the landscape changing, but, having different options, like having a financing option. You have, a 12-month 0% interest financing option where, somebody can, it's through one of our banks and they'll give the 12 months and you don't even need a super high credit score, but it gives them the opportunity to get financing for that deductible and then also get their roof done, in situations like that. So, I still think insurance will be around. It'll just be more of, can this homeowner finance, these larger deductibles, and building up that urgency for them to actually want to do it, which makes it more of a sales market rather than a facilitation market. Because right now, when it was 1% or 1,000, you were just facilitating the process. I mean, I even go out sometimes when people go, I'm in roofing sales. I'm like, dude, this isn't selling anything other than yourself, really, because you're facilitating a process that a lot of times, like, anybody could have did it. Like, you're not selling them something, you're not selling them a fire extinguisher, right? I mean, something tangible. It's a service, and it is a no-brainer a lot of times for people to do it, right, with the insurance company. But when you make it a 2% deductible, now you have to sell something, right? Now you have to sell on, why they need to have this taken care of through the insurance, explaining financing, and truly sell a roof. So I think we'll even achieve there, because that's how we teach already in our sales process, is how to sell and not just facilitate a process. That's with upgrades and different roofing systems and things like that. So,
yep. And dude, you hit the nail on the head with that. It's never been, and it's so unpopular when I say what you just said. Is, if you think insurance restoration is sales, and you're walking around talking about, I'm a sales rep and I can sell anything, that's a huge crock of shit, ladies and gentlemen. Like, someone calls you because their house got destroyed and they just need somebody. And if you can just somehow convince them that you understand it a little bit more than the next guy, you're good to go. Now, something else that's very prominent in our industry, which I'm very thankful that they are kind of changing things and it's becoming more of a sales motivated process, is insurance fraud. Okay. You're in DFW. I've heard all kinds of stories about what goes on over there. I think there's 3,500 roofing companies in that Metroplex area, and everybody's out there trying to get their piece of that pie. And just like here in San Antonio, some of the big dogs here in town, I won't mention any names, but I hear a lot of stories of, you don't have to pay your deductible. We'll take care of it. We'll do all this, which is bullshit for one. And I hate everybody that does that, because I've never eaten a deductible my entire life. I've lost a lot of deals to people that do. But when you're in that kind of a market and it's prominent, how do you teach your people, or how do you maintain that mindset with the homeowner of saying, look, you have to do this. It's the law. I know that so-and-so roofing just said that nobody checks it and nobody cares and they're going to give you a free roof. What do you teach your people to offset that mindset for the homeowner and keep yourselves in the game and continue getting roofing deals? Because, you really do have to sell it at this point, because there's going to be someone that's always got a cheaper deal. Someone's always going to be a slick talker, and they're going to try to get themselves in that way. So how do you guys combat that and maintain a legitimate company?
I think it starts off with expectations about what that deductible is when you're going through the claims process with the homeowner, right? Like, so, a lot of times, like, we tell people, you don't want to shortchange or cut corners in this process. Like, we're shooting to do all the work, right? Because you want to have all the work done. Because if you don't do all the work, that stuff is not going to be paid for on a few, like, and there are times where homeowners don't care. They want to move the ACV of the gutters toward the RCV of the roof, which perfectly fine. You can do that, but completely waiving it, obviously means they're willing to commit a crime, right? And if they're willing to commit a crime, what else are they willing to commit? But we add a lot of value into them getting this work done, right? So it's like, this is part of if you're paying your deductible, we're going to put you in an extended warranty, 25 years with Atlas, right? 25-year extended warranty. It's going to have 130 mile per hour wind rating. If they have gutters, we want to put some leaf screens up there, right? Like, different things that we want to add as a value package to them. Now, once you start subbing things out, right, from that best option, you start really, backtracking a little bit. But I want to make sure that the homeowner gets the most amount of value added back into the home. I mean, we tell homeowners, we want to leave your home better than we found it, better than it was pre-storm conditions, right? Better shingle, better ridge, better systems, fix that little piece of fascia on there. I think adding value to the deal and letting the homeowner see the value they get when they pay their deductible versus moving things from Peter to pay Paul and mixing and matching this, the value that they lose, they really see the vision of rather paying their deductible versus not paying it and moving all of these things around, or even dealing with a contractor that's telling them they'll waive it completely, right? That at the end of the day, sometimes you really just can't compete with it. When someone says, hey, he says he's going to waive it, like, I'm willing to lose those deals, because guess what? All the referrals that are going to come from that are going to be another person wanting you to waive the deductible. And at the end of the day, like, that's just a cheap way to sell. You know, that's how you have to sell in this industry. Like, I really, truly don't know, like, it's a race to the bottom, man. Like, you're literally, I don't even know how they're going to survive on these margins that they do these jobs for. Because I'm like, eventually it's going to bite them in the ass and they're going to go out of business if you run jobs like that over and over. So in a sense, they weed themselves out. You know, that's why they say 80% of roofing contractors go out of business year one. And it's exactly because of that. It's because you keep trying to waive a deductible. Well, you're not picking that money up. And guess what? I don't know what, if you're doing all of the work on that job and you're not picking up the deductible, I can only imagine your margins after taxes, insurance, your rent, you're paying a sales rep, you're paying on, like, you're not going to make it, dude. Like, you got to know where your margins are at, brother. And you're only going to get referral business that's just like that. You're going to end up with bad customer that leaves another shit deal down the road, and you're never going to get out of that vortex. You know, so I think that's the way the universe handles people like that over time, you know, but the good guys have to, you know, add that value and show them the package that they actually get and the offsets of them trying to do things another way.
There you go, ladies and gentlemen. If you're watching this episode and you waive deductibles, this is what we think of you. So you're not going to be around to tell us that we're wrong down the road. And 27 years in the industry, I've seen thousands of contractors fall by the wayside. So take this man's words for what they are, which is extremely wise and experienced. And
protect your reputation at all costs, man, because people talk, dude. And, you know, we all kind of know each other in the industry, and we know who does the waiving of the deductibles. We know who keeps their word and, you know, has integrity. And then we also know the guys that have, you know, buckled and, you know, shown that they don't have it. And, you know, it is a marathon in roofing, you know, you know, it's just what it is. Right. And integrity is what lasts the test of time. So.
Yep. That's all there is to that. And I told you we are going to try to keep this to an hour, but I got two more things I want to talk about. If it's cool with you, we'll start to wind it down a little bit. But the next thing I want to talk about is your presence on social media. You've got your company out there. You've got your name into the community. I know you guys do a lot of cool things in the community. Yeah. You've got a podcast. I see your videos. Like, you probably do as many videos as I do, which is like one of the few people that I could say that to. Yeah. And tell me a little bit about how that has changed over the last couple of years. I had someone on the other day and we were talking about how, you know, used to be you would be called like A. Miller Storm because you'd have to start with the letter A, because the phone books, you know, they'd go in and they'd start looking at people and it'd be like A Miller Storm, you know, and it's changed over time. And I think that a lot of people still are a little bit hesitant to get on board with that, but you're not one of them. You go inside your own company, you have content of your sales meetings, you're training your guys, and you're putting it out there into the world so people can see it. Tell me a little bit about how that, first off, how that came about with you. And secondly, some of the results that you see based on that, because I'm not going to lie to you, dude. I get so many referrals from people off of, oh, I saw that video you made the other day. I saw you talking about pipe boots. I saw you talking about not doing this, or I saw you talking about that component on the roof. I had a lady the other day. It was awesome. I show up and she's like, I have neoprene pipe boots and I have radiant barrier. And I know you talked about both of those. And I just want you to know that I know about that. So as we've evolved and we've changed, and I think it's been a post-COVID kind of thing. So you guys really got into the game at the perfect time for this. A lot of people before COVID were doing your basic, you know, radio ads, TV, whatever. And that stuff still works for sure. But as the social media has continued to grow, you guys have gotten on board with it. Tell me a little bit about how that's helped your business and how just that brand recognition in the community has helped boost what you guys have started building.
Yeah. So my content is really based around culture and our sales culture, and trying to show people who we are internally and being able to use it as not just a recruiting source, but also who we are just really as a company, right? And I say that because sometimes people are like, man, aren't you nervous your homeowner's going to see that? You know, how you sell people in your sales process. And my brand for this isn't really focused as much on homeowners as it is focused on our company culture. What are we about? And trying to bring people into Miller Storm in general. So the podcast and the sales meetings and the trainings and the videos, I mean, we started doing about 3 pieces of content, a video probably like a year ago, right? I mean, in the beginning it wasn't hitting, but I think people now want to know who you are before they ever come work for you, you know, and you know, something had to switch, right? And Chuck, I think you'd agree with me on this, is like, I think we're a roofing company like 5th. Because
exactly,
like we're a recruiting company because the turnover in roofing is so high that, you know, I realized like this is a recruiting industry. This is a recruiting industry. This is a training industry. This is a personal development agency. This is a marketing agency. Like the 5th or 6th thing we are is a roofing company. I remember Kevin Burrell and you telling me this 4 or 5 years ago, and I didn't understand it. But now 5-6 years into business, I'm like, oh, I'm not in the roofing business at all. I'm actually in the recruiting space, because you need to be training sales reps to expand your company, and you need to train and retain them. Because if you have people hiring and then they're going, and then they're hiring, you train them, and they're like, that is a lot of time and energy. And I felt like I was on a hamster wheel for the longest time, just hiring and training, you know. And I was like, how am I ever going to get out of this unless I'm recruiting the people that are like me and believe in the vision that I'm painting, and they can get with the culture that we're building, right? So like there's a certain vibe that we have here with Miller Storm, is more like a Spartan attitude, right? It's like we're going to war, you know, we're going out there, we're going to knock doors. Like this is not an easy industry, and you have to have thick skin, and you have to be, you know, developing personally, mentally, spiritually, physically. Like you've got to be on fucking fire if you want to come work at Miller Storm. Like I'm not taking anybody who has zero energy, because sales is energy. And so when we start our Monday meetings, like we start that 2 claps to the Ric Flair, woo, like we're getting ourselves hyped. We're going to war. This is our week. This is the week that's going to change our family. This is what we're going to go out and help people. We're going to train. We're going to go 1,000 miles an hour. We're going to run through a wall. Like that's the energy that we have. And if you're about that, then come here, right? Like, because like our training processes are second to none. I mean, like, you know, I'm part of, you know, I'm on the board with Adam for Roofing Solar Reform Alliance. So, you know, we get on Zoom calls with Adam Bensman, Deshaun Bryant, John Cenac. Like we get on Zoom calls with these guys every month, and we're training there. You get training by me. You get training by Brinson, who did $3.4 million in sales last year. My wife is here. We got Naaman here, who can teach about social media, branding, marketing. So like we all take turns in developing all of these guys in all of these different sections, because the biggest complaint I hear from guys that come from other roofing companies is, man, they didn't train me. You know, they just gave me some business cards, told me to get out there, you know, like it's funny. We joke about this all the time. We're like, my guys here go, dude, another training, like another training on this. Like the one thing you can't say if you ever leave Miller Storm is that there wasn't enough training, because it's like we train. There's like a training every 2 hours here, whether it's a Zoom call, an in-person training. We're out there doing group knocks. Like we're a real cohesive culture over here, where we don't just send you out by yourself. I truly believe door knocking is a team sport. Like we all collectively get out there, build synergy. Oh, he told you to fuck off, I got told fuck off too. Or he got inspection, I'm getting inspection over here. Like we should all be working off of each other to build that momentum where we're all working off of each other, you know? So like I want to share that with the world of like what we're about in the podcast, what I'm about, what my belief systems are, what I you know deem to be true before you even walk in the door. Because a lot of these guys, when they come in and interview, they're like, damn, you're the same dude on social media.
Right.
Like, I thought you'd be a different guy. Like, you're the same high energy guy. And it's almost like we know each other already. You know, they're like, hey, I know, like, this is so cool. I thought it was going to be somebody different. It's the same people, you know? And so I think that's what really helped our recruiting process. Also in the coaching world, like I coach a lot of guys one-to-one. I coach some business owners as well that are in the roofing space about, you know, how to build culture, sales teams, things like that, how I have things. So it's helped on a lot of different facets and also put our brand on the map because I chose to take a stand. I didn't want to stay in the gray area. Some people are like, man, you say curses and motherfucker and, you know, you seem so money. We've lost deals. Like, I mean, not a lot. Like, we've lost a deal or two by people, other competitors pointing them toward my social media. And they're like, look at this Wolf of Wall Street mentality. These guys are all about the money. And I'm like, I don't, you know, there's also some context there. Is like, I'm also developing and creating a culture for my sales team. You know what I mean? Like, we wouldn't be on the map or doing the volume that we're doing if we weren't homeowner oriented as well. But there's a certain way you develop a sales team and get them momentum and motivated. And that's not through like, you know, kumbaya, right? That's like getting them hyped and ready to rock. Like you're about to go out for a football game, you know? It's like, I got to be the Ray Lewis of the huddle. I'm like, let's go, baby. Like, let's go rock, you know? And it gets people energized and motivated because you could lose a lot of momentum door knocking. Like, go out and knock by yourself for a week and get told fuck off and go get a real job and get the cops called on you, get guns for like, we're going to war. You know what I mean? You got to have a really strong why and a lot of support behind you for you to feel confident to go out and hit hundreds of doors every week. Like, it's a marathon, you know? And so sharing that experience on social media and getting these guys, you know, and that's what's going to attract like of like, you know? So that's really the force behind us doing the social media the way we do it, is so people can get an inside look on me, on Taylor, on Naaman, on Brinson, and what we have going on here. So when they show up at the front door, they know exactly what they're getting themselves into.
Yep. That couldn't have said that any better, man. And the enthusiasm and the energy is coming through the screen right now. So anybody that's watching this, if you're not fired up about this now, then check your pulse. You're probably dead. So let's say right now, Jay, there's somebody that's watching this episode and they are in the position that you found yourself in an hour and 11 minutes ago when we started this conversation. Life's kicked them in the balls. They're having a hard time trying to get themselves back up, maybe got into trouble, made decisions that were questionable and have to start over. Or they're young and just don't have any type of direction in life at the moment, but they're watching this and they're like, dude, that guy Jay, man, he's the real deal. I need someone like that in my life. I need someone like the dude that you were sitting beside that whipped out the money, not you know, figuratively speaking, that showed you, hey, there is something here in this world that you can do and invite you into that opportunity. Let's say someone's watching this right now and they're like, dude, I'm inspired. I want to follow this guy. I want to see what he's doing. I want to learn more about it. Potentially, I want to join his company. Yeah. What are the best ways that people can find you, people can follow you online, and ultimately, if someone is looking for that opportunity and they see it and they feel like, you know what, I am a good fit for this. I've got that in me. Maybe I'm not showing it right now. Maybe I'm still the dude at the early stages that's even going to try to talk myself out of it. Yeah. But I need a guy like Jay Miller who's going to tell me, no, dude, I tried to do that too. And if that would have worked at that time, I would not be sitting here. Who knows where I'd be? So where can someone like that find you? How can they get a hold of it? And what's the best channels for that kind of opportunity to present itself for someone that may not even realize that they need it until right this second?
So the best way to reach me is at Roof Dr. J. You can find me on TikTok, on Instagram. Jay Miller, I know it's a super unique name, but you can find me on Facebook as well. But the easiest way is Roof Dr. J. It's spelled out that same way. There's no unique way of spelling it. Find me on IG. You can shoot me a DM. You can watch the videos there. That's our culture, the podcast, different thoughts, ideas, how we run sales meetings. There's some trainings on there as well. You can see that on TikTok as well. I do a lot of free game on social media. I know a lot of guys have learned from that. And then if you're looking for direction in your life, I mean, I may be biased when I say this, but you know, roofing changed the trajectory of my life. And what I did here, not what just I did, what we did here, is we created a utopia for people who truly want to change their life and get real focused. You could change your life in a year here, right? I mean, I've seen it over and over and over again. Not just teach you the roofing industry, teach you life in general up to as much as we know it, right? How to buy a house, how to make investments, how to file your taxes, how to create a company, all these different things. We're that company. We're that company that's going to support you, but you have to make a decision. And that's the one thing is it's like, I have a sign here. It says, burn the ships. It's on my chest as well. Burn the ships. Like the man that chases two rabbits catches none. You have to commit to whatever it is that you're going to do and commit to that for at least a year, right? Like I tell guys, like you won't see the magic happen in roofing until you commit for a year. And you have to give it your 100%, not your, oh man, just try this out, dip my toe in the water. No, this is like go 110% at this and your life will change in roofing. And you can choose a lot of companies. There's a lot of great companies. I mean, I, of course, is one of them, but there's a lot of great companies that I've seen other people develop at as well. But I'll just speak for the roofing industry is if you're trying to change your life and you're trying to get the quickest time to value, I know no other industry other than the roofing industry that can do that for you. So if you're interested in joining our team, and you are what we are about, our core values is be coachable, continually evolve, a people over profits mindset, and do what you say. Like those, if you are that kind of person and you vibe with my energy, you see what we're doing on social media, and this is something that you want to be part of, I would love to have the conversation with you. Just reach out to me, shoot me a DM on Instagram. That's the best way to do it.
There you are, ladies and gentlemen. I told you an hour and 15 minutes ago that episode 215 was going to be absolute fire, and it's going to be one for the ages. And I think that we have exceeded that expectation. And Jay, thank you, number one, for taking the time to be here. It's been a couple years in the making. I'm so excited for this, and I can't wait till this one comes out. Before I head out, I do want to do one thing. I want to thank my sponsors at Roofer. I thank them every week. Without Roofer, who knows where I'd be. They do a lot for my business. They do a lot for me personally. Roofer's an amazing program. If you're not using Roofer at Miller Storm, I think you probably should. That's just my biased opinion on that. But thank you to those guys. Thank you to everybody that watches the podcast. I get so much feedback from people. It's awesome. I do it because I love it. I love having conversations like this where we didn't have a clue what the hell we were going to talk about, and here we are. You know, I could go another 2 hours with this guy for sure, and that opens the door for another opportunity down the road. So there's always an open invitation here. Thank you guys for watching. Like, subscribe, do all that cool stuff. And I'm going to end the episode by saying this. Ladies and gentlemen, for Mr. Jay Miller, we must end Keeping It Rio with 2 claps and a Ric Flair. Woo! Because this guy is bringing the heat. And to see where you've gone from where you started to now, and to be able to be on the earth at the same time as someone like you and your wife, Taylor, and see how you guys are going to continue to move forward in the future. It's a true blessing, and I'm thankful that I know you guys. I'm wearing the hat today because I have nothing but the utmost respect, and it means the world to call you guys friends. So thank you for being here. What I'm going to do is I'm going to end the recording now. We'll see you guys next Thursday. Jay, stick around. We'll finish up our conversation on the backside of this ad by my incredible sponsors at Roofer. So until next Thursday, y'all, just keep on keeping it Rio, like I always say, and we'll see you guys next week.
We're Roofer. We know that managing a roofing business can be chaotic, so we created a single platform with all the tools you need to easily run your roofing business. Stop switching between multiple different softwares and experience streamlined operations from lead to payment in hours instead of days. Visit roofr.com to get started for free today.